Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Tifa's Tarot, and I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. And today we're going to go ahead and dissect our first section of the Zodiac series. We are going to start with Aries Sun, and we are going to identify Aries Sun through the houses. So if you have an Aries Sun or someone you know has an Aries Sun, and you're curious about how they express themselves through the houses, then let's go ahead and take a look at that, all right? So go ahead and check out the description of this video. You're going to see the timestamps for what Aries Sun and into what particular house and what time we'll do that. And I'm also going to include a few links of some reputable websites that you may go to take a peek at your own birth chart, right, for more information about what your astrological profile looks like, all right? So suns, let's talk about our sun signs first, okay? So what we know about sun is that the sun represents our egos. It represents what motivates us the most, okay? It's said to really represent the core of our persona. And it's simply just determined by the position of the sun at the time of our birth, right? Simple as that. It's easily the most identified planet, and almost anyone is like Astrology 101 knows exactly what their sun is in if they know their birth date, okay? I would say it's what we most identify with, and why people don't take astrology so seriously is because sometimes people may only see their sun sign. They don't understand that there are further complexities that are involved in our natal chart, right? With other planets and other aspects that do have an effect on how our sun is also expressed, okay? Whether it's elevated or it could even be drowned out a little bit depending on certain other aspects in our charts. But regardless, let's go ahead and just take a look at our sun signs. And today we're going to start with Aries, and we'll go with that, okay? We're going to go with Aries through the houses. So I'm going to try to explain also what the houses are before I explain how they are expressed, okay? So let's say our zodiac signs, when you're looking at the sign in your birth chart, the zodiac signs show how that energy flows through us, how it flows in your life, all right? And you will see that it will also be associated with a particular house as well. So the house tells us where, it's like the neighborhood. It tells us where in our lives that energy is being expressed, okay? And I'll point out some examples as we're going through Aries, all right? So Aries, let's start with what Aries is. Aries is generally known as the first sign of our zodiac, and is generally known for being very bold, very courageous, a little bit impulsive in its actions, because it's ruled by Mars. And if you know anything about Greek mythology, you would know that Mars is the Greek god of war. So it's really a planet it's really a sign, I should say, Mars is a planet that is a planet of action, assertion, a little bit of aggression is involved in that. And so those are things that affect the Aries qualities, right? So Aries is generally known for having a more extroverted quality or personality sense, which could also be subdued by other factors. But typically, Aries expressed in its true form, it's going to be a bit more extroverted. It's going to be a little bit more competitive than other signs. It's gonna have some interest maybe in competition, sports, gambling, things that require a little bit of like grit, right? A little bit of boldness. Aries is also a cardinal sign, right? So cardinal signs are known for being starters, right? They are quick to initiate and take action on what they want. While at the same time, because Aries is the first sign in our zodiac, has a very naive quality to it as well, and a very optimistic quality. So Aries that character of Aries could find themselves really being very naive risk takers in some aspects. And this could change as they get older in life and they start evaluating different risks that they've taken in their lives and start thinking of what matters and what doesn't and how to actually take those risks in a safe way. But outside of that, the Sun and Aries people are known for being really great friends and family members, as They're very bold, and they could be like staunch defenders and supporters of their friends and families. And people love that about an Aries Sun. The negative side of it is that Aries Sun tends to have a bit of a short attention span. And so they could really lack the complexity or lack like great listening skills. Okay, so that could be the downside of having a Sun in Aries. But let's go ahead and just look at Aries through the houses. Okay, we're going to start with our first house. So the first house in astrology, it represents our self. It is the reflection of, let's say, it's a reflection of like who we are as a people. It just signifies our ego. So if you have an Aries Sun and is in the first house, you could exhibit, regardless of your gender, you can exhibit very aggressive masculine energy. You could be very blunt, or what people would say in the nice way, they'd say very authentic, right? Very direct, cutting to the chase, very great negotiators, I would say, but in a way where it's like you win because you're so aggressive in that sense that people just can't handle that level of aggression. So people might see people in the sign as being very brash in the way that they have their manners. Their mannerisms are very brash. So it's even to say, even if you are a female and you have this sign, you have it in this house, it means that you're also very comfortable exerting masculine energy as well. But let's say a first house Aries could be very self-reliant, okay? Not depending on a lot of people for other things that they need in life, but also having a bit of a reputation for having a lot of self-interest, what we would call a little bit selfish, right? But I would say it's more just self-assured. But the great part of this is that these people, because they are so self-assured, it's very common that they do really great in having leadership qualities, and can become great bosses because they're so willing and able to take charge in certain manners, okay? So that was our Aries in the first house. So let's look in the second house. When we talk about the second house has to do with, let me see, I took some notes here. So the second house has to do with our money, all right? It's like our work, what we do for work. It has to do with our resources, our income, but also our daily routines, our material possessions, our habits, what kind of work that we do and how we do our work, right? So if you have Aries and it's in the second house, it could be, because it has that Aries quality, it could be a bit selfish when it comes to their things. Like, these people don't really like to share things with other people, okay? They could strive really hard, be very competitive in the job market, strive really hard to make a good living. They could be very attracted to careers that have bonuses, right? Like sales, recruiting, business owners, like getting into entrepreneurship, right? And could be very aggressive when it comes to like upward mobility, okay? They might really enjoy finding new ways to make money as well. So they could always be looking for the next scheme, maybe into like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but just ways to elevate their position in life through financial means, right? They could also be careful to not be, because of that Aries quality, there could be a tendency to be very impulsive when it comes to spending habits. And so they choose to really like spend on themselves a lot, okay? So they could be known for having very nice things, looking very nice, and getting the things and kind of worrying about how they're going to pay for it later, okay? Another trait about this is that they could be very defensive about their money, okay, and choosing to fight for money. This would be a great candidate for someone to work on Wall Street, to be a stockbroker, like think hedge funds, like people who work in these competitive financial markets, right? Because these people, because they have that Aries quality of being aggressive, they could also be very uncompromising when it comes to like any type of point of view, okay? Particularly when it comes to money and finances, all right? So that is Aries in the second house. Let's go ahead and look into Aries in the third house. So Aries in the third house, our third house is related to our siblings, relationships like that. It's also related to our communications, how we communicate, what's our style of communication. So you have an Aries Sun and it's in your third house. This could be, you could be very impatient when talking with people, a very impatient conversationalist. Someone who talks in a very quick manner as well. Could This could also indicate that there's some natural inclination to having like sibling rivalry, if that's in your chart, right? That could be a highlighted theme as well. But these people can, because they are cardinal fire in nature, they could be very great imaginative writers, right? Have a very creative spark, right, for being able to write scripts and do things of that nature. They could have the tendency to be quite quick-tempered as well, and they could talk in a manner that other people could find very brash or offensive in some way. So they may, a good idea for someone with an Aries Sun in the third house is to channel some of that hasty energy that you have, some of that, like, I'm just going to say it and I don't really care. You might want to channel that into motivational things, being a motivational speaker, or maybe leading groups into protest about a topic or a situation, or a topic, I should say, that you're very passionate about. And these people are very independent learners. They don't care to really learn in a group, okay? They have maybe even have the tendency to have a little bit of ADHD energy, where their minds are very quick and they're going from here to there, okay? So they do have this incredible need to really be able to distinguish themselves from other people, or to really just be like very separate, or to identify themselves as an individual away from their family, okay? So like I said, this has something to do with your siblings as well. Maybe as a group there was something as your family, like you guys are all like mountain bikers or something, and an Aries Sun in the third house would just kind of decide to be like, no, I don't really want to do that. Like, I want my own identity and I'm going to go this way. Okay. So that's what Aries Sun in the third house looks like. Let's talk about the fourth house. So when we talk about the fourth house relates to our family. It can relate either to our mother or our father. And it really relates to our home life as a child. What was that like? Okay. And how does that affect our lives as we grow older as well? So if you have a Sun and Aries in this position, this could indicate, first of all, a very tumultuous childhood growing up, maybe having a very angry or violent parent, as possible. Maybe a parent who was very selfish. This could also show, because of those factors, there's a high likelihood that someone with the Sun in the fourth house in Aries really gained independence very early on in life, and could not really rely on family to kind of help them through some things, through some important life stages. It could also indicate like just fighting for your family, fighting for your country, like being very patriotic as well as big on that fourth house Aries. These people, because it's related to the home life, these people could be very attracted to careers that are also involved with homes, like being a real estate agent, flipping houses, being a person who was a pioneer, who just like who were part of the gold rush, right? Like those people who just like went and lived out in the middle of nowhere, to take a risk in that way. Okay, so there's some level of pioneering, right, that comes to Aries fourth house. Also channeled correctly, I could say an Aries Sun in this house could be a very active leader in their own home life, right? And whether there's something about like a competitive spirit in the family, right? So it could have been like the way that they were raised, or could be like when that Aries Sun in the fourth house decide to have their own family. Maybe there are certain values that they push onto their own kids or their own families, right, in that sense. So this could look like military families where everybody joins the military, sports family where everybody does a particular sport, right? But whatever it is, it's something that's competitive, right? Where a lot of people in the family do similar-ish things, and everyone tries to like kind of one up each other in some way. But this could also indicate some issues with inheritance. Maybe there's fighting later in this life about family housing, right? That could be a very big theme for Aries Sun in the fourth house. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and look into our fifth house. All right. So fifth house. This relates to this is really the sun energy, right? When you talk about fifth house, the fifth house is related to the energy of children. It's also very fun, games, activities, entertainment, romance, dating, like these types of fun, lighthearted energy. So if you have an Aries Sun is in the fifth house, this could indicate one of things. If we're talking about the role of children, this could indicate you being a very active child or you having active children. There's something about the role of children in fifth house Aries Sun that it's like activated here. Okay, there could be lots of competition revolving children or being an independent child or having very independent children. And Aries in the Sun in the fifth house may also like video games that are competitive, that are kind of violent, could really find a lot of fun and very risk-taking sports like boxing, gambling, things like that. Could be very competitive in that way. They could also be like very staunch risk takers and see the fun in taking risks, right? I think I said skydiving, bungee jumping, gambling, like all of these thrill-seeking activities really are attractive to an Aries in the fifth house. They could also have this tendency to kind of have like a jackass. Everybody remembers Jackass, right? This jackass mentality, where they just like getting hurt on purpose for stunts, right? It's just something that like fills them up. They have a lot like adrenaline junkies, so to speak. Okay. But they could be very great and active and creative arts as well. They could just have like ideas, and because they're not prone to having influence from other people, they really like are not shy about expressing their creative pursuits or their creative abilities, right? So I love that for our fifth house Aries. Let's move to the sixth house. So if we're talking about the sixth house in astrology, the sixth house is associated with our health, our fitness, our routines, even our pets, our habits, work habits as well. And also, if the sixth house is our services, like how do we serve other people? Okay, so if you have an Aries and it's in the sixth house, I would say that this type of person really enjoys work that's very action oriented. They could be drawn to careers like firefighting, being a police officer, sports therapy, or any job that has a danger or a risk that's associated with it. Okay, I would say even like sex workers, oil drillers, sea fishermen, crab and sea fishermen that go out, like etc. Any job that has like a bit of an edge to it. An Aries Sun in the sixth house will be very attracted to that. Okay. One thing about this sign is that they could have a quality or characteristic where they eat too fast, too quickly. They could be very like to go through diet trends where they're really hot and cold about certain diet trends. They could have a very new approaches throughout their life about what is good for the body. So having what we would call like very extreme diets, right? Extreme diets could be being like aggressive about being a raw vegan, right? Or vegan to the staunch vegan, or even a carnivore diet, right? Something that is a little more than on the extreme side, right? These type of people could also have the tendency to really like spicy food, and they could be those people who carries hot sauce with them, and they just want to put spice all over everything. So there's something that's very different and significant about the way that they eat, or the way that they work, or the exercise routines that they get into. Okay, so yeah, that's a sixth house Aries. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our Let's look at our Aries in the seventh house, okay? So, our seventh house relates to our partnerships, right? These are the commitments that we make with individuals throughout our lives. And they are, I would say, the seventh house is more about like how we bring balance to our lives by our relationships and who we introduce into our lives to be in soul contracts and partnerships, okay? So, I would say an Aries in the seventh house could be or could attract very independent partners, okay? They're not very clingy. They really have a tendency to either have to be careful because they have the tendency to kind of run roughshod over people. So it could come across as being very selfish, very abusive in nature sometimes, if not kept in check. They could be attracted to very like tough personas, right? If it's a feminine character, it's like she likes the bad boys. Like this is a girl who's like she's talking to somebody in prison or something, right? It likes people who are really into like competition, like something that has a little edge to it, right? So you could be attracted to that, or you could be that also. It also indicates someone is looking for or wants to be in relationships that are a little bit competitive, right? So you could be drawn to partnerships where you want to one up your partner, you and your partner thrive on one upping each other. Um, I would say also this an Aries Sun in the seventh house could really like to compete for love. They don't mind chasing, or if they're the ones who are on the receiving end, they like the thrill of people being able to chase them as well. So these types of people will either like go all out for love, will compete for love to the nth degree, or they will just refuse to get married and refuse to be in any like serious committed relationships because they just have this incredible fierce independence in them that they just do not see the point or the purpose of settling down and being in a long-term commitment. So either way, if you have a Aries Sun in this house, it will make sure that they will make sure to find or attract partners that are very similar to them, okay? Because without that, it couldn't work with a more passive person. So I would say if you have Aries Sun in the seventh house, you're not for the weak, okay? You're not for the weak at all. You're not for the passive. You will run over a passive person. So typically an Aries Sun in that seventh house wouldn't even enjoy someone who is passive. They want someone who can meet their fire, who can be a great match. Okay. So when we talk about the first through the seventh houses, these are what we call our personal houses. I'm sorry, 1 through 6 are our personal houses. So these are the ways in which we rule our private lives. It revolves around our individuality, our environments, our siblings, our co-workers, like the people, our friends that we have in our circles, our parents also, right? Because we talked about that 1 through 6, right? Has to do with our personal, right? It's more of our personal houses. But the first one I talked about, 7th, these are the interpersonal houses. So the 7th one is about how we communicate with each other in partnerships, right? Let's go ahead and get into the 8th house. So our 7th through 12th houses are interpersonal relationships. They deal with partnerships, joint ventures, our career, our spirituality, what the end of our lives look like, right? So to speak. So when we're talking about our 8th house is the house of secrets. It's the house of death. It's a house of inheritance, shared money. It's our private house, okay? It's our house that we don't really want others to kind of peer at in a sense. It gives us, it's a very vulnerable house to have as well. So if you have Aries Sun is in the 8th house, now this is when you will start to see that Aries Sun, that energy, that assertive, combustible energy, you start to see that really subdued, okay? Aggressive energy starts to kind of die down a little bit. And this person will be a little bit more, this is an Aries Sun that can be a little bit more on the introverted side, okay? They could have a very keen desire to really explore lots of hidden aspects of life, including like they could be having interest in psychology, the spiritual realms, right? doing things that are bold in that way, okay? So it's like the identity of these people can be very intertwined on a psychological level, like how to dominate people psychologically, right? How to achieve power and control, right? But it's also garnered towards the mysteries of life, right? Things that cannot really be seen in some way. So I would say this person approaches challenges and life's uncertainties with a lot of determination. So they're still quite bold in that sense. And they embrace, so they're not scared of some of the transformational experiences in life, right? Things that, like, I would say, experiencing death or total structure changes, just like tower moments. Like, these people handle it very well. They almost like welcome it in some ways, right? They're like, yeah, like this is a challenge for me to get over it. It's not like they're so excited about dealing with it, but it's more of like, they see that internally as something that will help them grow. They understand the value of difficult situations. And I would say the ego of this Aries Sun in the 8th house is deeply connected to the ability to really navigate through having a complex life. These people don't want ordinary lives. They want something that has a little bit more grit. These are the people that want to see a ghost. These are the people that will probably play with a Ouija board, right? Not really thinking about the spiritual repercussions of what could happen with that because they're so bold in that way, okay? So they can get very much involved into the occult out of sheer interest and just do it without necessarily like reading up on some of the precautions of that. So that is also something to look out for. They could also, there could be something internally about an Aries Sun in this house that when they're dealing, they're very assertive when it comes to dealing with shared resources, okay? If they have intimate relationships and inheritances, these people are very influential in terms of convincing people kind of what to do or how to deal with manners and that, right? Shared resources like inheritances, right? Yeah, so I would say these kind of people, they really thrive on really uncovering kind of a lot of life secrets, and they are just bold to conquer anything that they fear. Okay, so they're not going to be scared of aliens or ghosts or demons or vampires. These are the Aries, an Aries Sun, and the 8th house is going to confront that demon. Is going to go looking. Is going to go to all the paranormal events and wants to see what that haunted house is. They're not scared to do it, right? So that is you if you have Aries in the 8th house. Let's take a look at our 9th house. So when we are talking about the 9th house, our ninth house talks about travel. It talks about the ways in which we expand ourselves through wisdom, our education. It's like learning things in our life, right? It's like, where are our ethics, right? It also is about travel. So it's like, what are our cross-cultural connections that we embrace, right, in our lives? So if you have an Aries and is in the 9th house, I'd say these people really are bold. They don't mind traveling alone, right? They're bold when it comes to that. They could be really good in publishing, right? Very aggressive in that. Or at some point in their lives, they could choose to write a book about something and self-publish themselves. When they get involved into higher education, they're very competitive students, right? Could be like debaters. But I would say these people are not very religious people. Okay, they could like have either one of two things. They could either be angry kind of at religion and like kind of demean it in some ways, or the flip side of that is if they have incorporated a spiritual or religious ideology in their life, they could be like fighting for it, like jihadist type, where they are just like, this is my religion, boom boom, right? So they could be one of two of those. I would say that they also, to couple on that, they see a purpose to fighting, right? They don't they understand that certain things in life have to be fought for, and they're consigned to that ideology. They're just like, yeah, if you want this, people gotta die sometimes, right? So I feel like that's kind of how um, Aries Sun in the ninth house works in that way. They could also be, mm, let's say, like looking, because it also has to do with travel. So if we're talking about on the, like the foreign aspect of it, these people could be like into like traveling for sports, right? Maybe like a basketball player from America, but they like play basketball in Ukraine or something, right? Turkey. So they could be into that, foreign sports, um, fitness, philosophy, jujitsu, things like that. Um, they could also be the way that they see certain, if they're like really into sports, they could see certain sports icons as like almost like demigods, right? Where they are obsessed with a particular character and a competitive character that they can almost like see a lot of inspiration, almost like mimic some of their lives from as well. So they could also be like fitness gurus, right? Where they come up with a diet or a nutritional or an exercise routine that many people follow them in that respect as well. So there's also that quality, that Aries quality of like that aggression, that competitive spirit that other people see that they're able to utilize, like to expand in some way. Okay, so that is the ninth house. Let's talk about the 10th house. 10th house in astrology. This is the house of career. Okay. This is talking about our long-term goals as expressed, right? This, our 10th house gives us the structure. It also talks about our public image and our reputation from the outside world. It could also indicate masculinity, male figures in our lives that are very important, experts, but it also can talk about fame, right? How likely are we to have fame throughout our lives? So if you have an Aries Sun and is in the 10th house, you have a reputation for being a little aggressive, maybe even violent. Maybe you're a fighter, like an actual fighter. Um, Being a little bit on the argumentative side, so probably a great debater, being very independent. So, like I said, someone who is a professional fighter, a lawyer, also would do very well in this with this type of sun sign. These people don't really like to get involved in relationships, so they could have like a serial singlehood, right, where they're always single. If they do business, they are very good at business because they're very aggressive. Okay, but the way that people see these people, despite the, it's like a two side, right? So they are very aggressive, but at the same time, from the outside, other people see these people as being very naive, a little bit childlike, right, in their demeanor because they're very playful. And physically, they could exhibit being very physically fit, very active, very athletic, very interested in fitness and sports. They're almost had the reputation for being like the star athlete. Like this is the type of person who will love to do a triathlon, run marathons, doing things like that. And businesses, they're very competitive, right? If they start a business, they can be very uncompromising as well, which in some ways guarantees a lot of success in entrepreneurship. They, because it has to do with like men in our lives, it could have this theme of fighting with men, fighting with your fathers, being angry with your dad in some way. But these people, I would say, are known for being quite the pioneer when it comes to things. They like to do things that are unorthodox or take a path that isn't so traditional, so to speak. Another quality is that they could be a little bit reckless, okay? So that in terms of their recklessness could be like just forging a new path and not really doing the research behind it, just like doing it because there's not a lot of planning that's involved in the Aries 10th house. It's just like I feel like this is the right thing to do, so I'm going to do it. So they are could be very, they could try to forge like new career paths. because they just like to do things in their own way. Okay. Another thing about these people, because like of their ability to like want to be seen, is very athletic. They could also qualify as being like sex symbols as well, right? People see them and think that they're very attractive, right? And I kind of feel this more with like a masculine Aries Sun in the 10th house more than a feminine one, but you know, you never know. But in my mind, because it exudes more of that masculine trait, so it'd just be like a guy with like chiseled face, like ripped abs, like someone who just looks like a god, right? In that sense. So that is Aries Sun in the 10th house. We're almost done here. Let's look at the 11th house. Okay. So 11th house, let's say, is all about our friends. It's about our groups and associations and what circles are we in? Who are we attracting into our lives, all right? It also has to do with like groups, but it has to do with like what are our humanitarian I would say our humanitarian, what's the word, like conditioning, or how we, what is our position in the groups in a humanitarian level. It also talks about our relationship with technology and what we want or what we wish for our futures. So if you have it in the 11th house, these people can be very independent, okay? It's like, I don't really need any friends. Like, I am my own best friend. So they are not very influenced by associations with other people. They are the innovative friend, right? They're the friend who they're the friend who doesn't need you. You might need them because they are always going to be independent. These people can be very daring. They really champion for causes. So they get behind something and they can be very vocal about the causes that they get behind. They don't mind to fight for the masses of people or to put themselves in a position where they're fighting for other people or fighting for ideas, right? They could also be very competitive with their friends, going back and forth in that sense, or kind of fighting with people who have the same interest as them as well. These people could be very drawn to group sports, anything that has to do with the team. But it's really more about the idea of fighting for the better good, right? And attracting competitive and dangerous things. If not careful, these people could be prone to getting involved in gangs, being part of a mob, right, when it's aspected negatively. And they have to also be careful, if aspected negatively, to not become very selfish friends, okay? So making sure that they are not the ones who are always in the spotlight or the ones who are taking and not really giving. But as a whole, these people don't rely on other people to give them inspiration. They are their own, and they have their own independent goals and dreams. So, and that they actively pursue. So they could also be leaders of their friend groups as well, and just really independent, right, from anyone. The one thing that comes to mind is like this person could be involved in like a fight club or something, right? Like that's how they associate, like that's fun to them, is to do something in that nature. Okay, so that is Aries Sun in the 11th house. And finally, let's go into our 12th house. So when we talk about the 12th house, our 12th house has to do with endings, healing, closure. It's our hidden house, right? So it has to do with like karma, isolation, the afterlife. It's like what's hidden and what's in our subconscious, okay? So it's like a very opposing to Aries energy, because it's like Piscean energy, and so it's like if Aries and Pisces had a baby, that's what it would be. So bringing into that Aries ideology, that Aries qualities, I would say these people really like to fight on the behalf of spiritual beliefs. They are very independent spiritually, and they wouldn't really find very find a lot of use in group worship or group spirituality. They're very independent meditators. They are they might be, especially in their youth, they could be very unaware of their need to be self-reliant, okay? Because they have a lot of independent points of view, and because of this, there could be a tendency for them to attract secret haters or secret enemies that are in their shadows, of people that they don't know don't actually like them, okay? And there could be reasons why people don't like these people, because maybe they see this Aries Sun in the 12th house as being a little bit self-centered, but that person does not understand that quality of themselves. So they are not able, it's a disconnect of having this inability to really acknowledge, like, in the ways and how they are selfish, okay? They could have violent dreams, a tendency to really like fantasize about violence in some way. And it's not like they would ever enact it, but it's just like this fantasy, right? Something to kind of keep in check, right? Because it's like almost like this dreamy state of enacting violence or attracting it in some way, being attracted to dangerous people. I mean, this is the type of person who will write a serial killer and confess their love for them, right? There's something that they find very attractive in that sense. But they are also, I would say, active dreamers, though, right? They actively dream. Their internal dream world is very active when they sleep, and very engaging. So these people could be very bold to practice things like what is it when you like lucid dreaming, but there's another one, astral projection. They could be very like active in pursuing things like that, being interested in things like that. And overall, I would say these people have this fear of losing their independence, and they really don't like to rely on anyone, okay? But at the same time, they I would say that this is a very transformative sign, house to have, because I feel like like as you age with the sign, different parts of yourself start to unfold, so to speak. So there could be this embracing of the unknown, right, and not knowing where things are going, but being okay with not knowing where you're going. And if this person has any inner demons, they face them very boldly. Okay, so having the courage to really overcome inner demons is a strength, right, on this for this house as well. Okay, so there we got it. Those Aries Sun through the houses. I hope this was helpful to anyone who listened to this in its entirety. I do offer birth chart analysis, so if you'd like to book me for a birth chart analysis, go ahead and check the link in the description of this video, where I can sit down with you on a chat one-to-one, and we can just go through your birth chart, and I can help to give you some insight on your astrological profile. So I hope this was helpful for anyone who listened to this message in its entirety. Thank you so much, and have a great day.